If you're using WordPress, Elementor is one of the best platforms out there for building a web page, getting it out to market fast and very easily and effectively. But like any system that you first start out with, it can feel a little bit daunting if you don't know what you're looking at. So today I'm going to walk you through Elementor. I'm going to show you how to build a basic page, walk you through some of those really important functions that you need to understand very clearly to have a very effective and good looking page. And by the end, you're going to understand how to put this into place and build out that web page very fast and looking very consistent. My name is Trent Kennelly. I'm a marketing strategist, and on this channel, I talk about all the things that you can do to improve your business through marketing, sales, and analytics. So if that sounds good to you and you're excited, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, comment one thing that you would absolutely love to be able to do better with Elementor, or one thing that this video blew your mind about that you didn't even realize Elementor could do. I will tell you all about that once we jump over to the computer, which is right now, and let's get started. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into my WordPress. This is a brand new WordPress install with some other stuff that SiteGround likes to add very quickly and right off the bat for you. It just makes life a little bit easier. SiteGround is amazing. You should check it out. But in any case, the idea here is that we're just going to start with a fresh install. So we're not going to look at my backend. We're looking at a different install. I also want to point out quickly that we are not using Elementor Pro. Everything that I'm going to show you is on the free version. The Pro version is absolutely worth it. There's a lot more that you can do with it, but there's still a lot that you can do with the free version as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. What we're going to do, I've already installed Elementor. So what I'm going to do here is just start a new page. So you'll notice that none of these have the edit with Elementor button here. That's because these are template pages that came with a theme. So we're not going to really be able to edit them or anything. So we're just going to go ahead and go add new. And then we're going to click edit with Elementor up here. Now, this is what it looks like right off of the bat when you start a new page. There's nothing here. There's a default menu. We're going to get to that in a little bit. There's an ugly title that I personally hate. We're going to get rid of that in just a minute. It gives you a default section here. So the first thing to note about Elementor is that it's broken up into sections and then blocks. And so you can put anything into the section and it'll blow out to the entire width of the section, or you can create blocks that you can then separate out. But we'll get to that in just a minute. Let's first talk about everything in this side panel here. So the side panel is broken up into a couple of different sections. The first one is basic. So these are all the very basic things you're going to need. You're always going to need a heading. You'll probably need these intersections a lot, which we'll get to in a few minutes. Images, you're always going to need. Text, you're always going to need. Buttons, dividers to add lines like this one, this little gray line right here. Spacers that just give us a little bit of space between two sections. You need that from time to time. Google Maps, which is a Google Maps install. It's just a little section of the map so you can show your location. Really good for local SEO. Check out this video for more information on local SEO. Then, of course, adding icons. And then these are a couple of add-ons that I got from downloading with SiteGround as well. But you can just go into the plugins and search for Opt-in Monster and search for WP Forms, and you can download these yourself. Then there's the Pro section. There are lots of different things that we can do here, like login, galleries, flip boxes, which are really nice. We don't really need to worry about that right now because, again, we're working with free. So we'll just close that one down. There are some other things that we can think about. So an image box would be an image, and then either you can highlight it to have it move and then you get more text underneath it, or it'll just be image and text associated. Okay, so you can add lots of other things like testimonials, progress bars, lots of different things that you can do here. HTML is probably one of the most interesting because you can add custom text and custom setup that you might not have otherwise done, but that's very advanced, so we don't really need to worry about that too much. These are minimized, but they're still interesting to look at. So you have your site setup. So all of these three, site, WooCommerce, and WordPress, are not necessarily native to Elementor, but what they are is more general to WordPress itself. So you can see here you've got things like Yoast, breadcrumbs. Yoast is an SEO plugin, which is a great SEO plugin. You should check that out. Sitemap, a menu cart, that's going to be unrelated to WooCommerce. So if you decide to use WooCommerce, probably don't use this one. You'll need to use something different. Site title, etc. So you'll see the same thing here for WooCommerce. There's lots of things that are specifically for WooCommerce. And WordPress, you'll see things like pages, blog posts, media, that sort of stuff. And then the last thing I want to show you on this side panel is all of this stuff down here. So this gets ignored quite a bit, but it's really important. So the first one and the most obvious one is this preview. So it's this little eye here. You click it and it's going to open up another window that then shows the page as it would be if it was live. Now this page is not live because we're still in a mode that says publish here and not update. This is not a site anybody's going to see, so we could publish this if we wanted to. But this is how it would look to everybody in this form at this moment, okay? So let's go ahead and go back here to our Elementor page. Responsive mode. So responsive mode is really important. Click on this and you can change to the look of tablet and mobile. This is really, really important because more and more people are coming to websites through mobile and less through desktop. So you don't want to just think about your desktop setup anymore. You also have to think about mobile. But what's really cool about responsive mode is that when you make an edit for mobile, it will only make that edit for mobile. You make an edit for desktop, it'll only make that edit for desktop, etc. I'm going to go through an example so you can see that a little bit later, but just understand for this moment right here that responsive mode is very valuable. You should not ignore it. The other things that we have in here are your history. So if you made any changes, you can see it makes a record of every single change that I make, and you can always go back to one. So if I didn't want to get rid of an image, let's say I added an image and I didn't want to get rid of it, I can always go back a step and then I can just go back to working from there and it will erase everything from before it. This isn't super valuable, but if it's helpful for you, you can put your navigator here and that just helps you to see where we are. So in this instance, we're in this section here, and there is the section, which is this blue area. There's the column, which is the gray area, and then there's the text editor, which is where you're putting the text in over here. We're going to get into a little bit more of that in a few minutes. Just know that that's there if you want it. I don't usually use it. And the last area this is important is this settings. I know this isn't super sexy, but it's important. So the settings has a title, it's got your status, which is currently draft. You can add an image here if you want to. And the most important thing for me here is this hide title button. I always hate this, to be honest with you. I think it's hideous. They do it on every page. So I just click this hide title button, goes away, disappears, nice and easy. Okay, so that's kind of everything for this bottom. Now let's get a little more granular about what we do on the page itself. So it starts you with the default section, but just to make things a little bit clearer so we clearly understand what we're doing, let's go ahead and just click plus so we can add a section here. So remember, we have sections, blocks, and then whatever is going to be going in those blocks here. So it breaks it up into block sections. So this is a very old way of doing website design. The benefit of it is that it allows you to be more malleable with different screen sizes. So if a screen is very large, you can have this single layer and it doesn't need to move anything around and it's easy. But if you can put 6 columns in, it just makes it a little bit easier on the screen size to move things as needed. Now, I don't necessarily suggest doing that 6 blocks on the section level, not in Elementor. And the reason for that is because there's this intersection and that's actually where we're going to be doing our work anyway. So it makes more sense to play with that column setup in the intersection. So let's go ahead for now and just select our structure full width. And what I'd like to do is just show you a couple of things on this edit section area. So this is going to look kind of the same for every single thing that you do on Elementor, but there are little differences for everything. So on this level, the section level, you can set your content width as wide or short as you want to. I would suggest keeping it pretty wide because again, you're going to be working with an intersection and you want to use that as the limiting factor here. Your gap between columns, the height of the section, etc., etc. One thing that's really interesting is you'll notice on some web pages that there will be, let's say, a black bar that goes all the way across. So let's say that I wanted to do that here. Let's just add black to the section. So I'm going to go over to Style. I'm going to add a classic setup. We're just going to select a color here, and I'm going to make that color black. Now you notice that that black is stuck inside the section. It doesn't go all the way to the edges of the page, but we want it to go all the way to the edges of the page. So let's go back to layout. We click stretch section here, and it goes all the way to the edges. So no matter what screen size you're on, again, we'll see on mobile, we'll see on tablet, and we'll see on desktop, it's always going to be the entire width of the page. So it's just an easy way to do that, okay? So then we can go to style again. There are other things that we can do. You can change how it looks when you hover over it. So maybe the background color changes. So let's say maybe it changes to red, and then you hover over it and it's very responsive. It does it right away. You can change the duration of that. So you notice that it takes a moment to change. It's a gradient movement. It's an animation. You can make that immediate if you want to. So it's just 1, 2, 1, 2, or you can make it take a very long time. Whatever you want to do. It's very malleable in that way. Other things that you can do, you can make this a background image. You can add borders. You can change the font type, but that's not super interesting yet. We're going to get to that in just a minute. And then the advanced tab, we're going to get to once we've put some stuff on this page. You're going to understand that a little bit better. Right now, it's not going to be super clear what this does, but just understand that there are things like motion effects, responsive attributes, that sort of stuff that you can put in here. The most interesting things on this page are going to be margin, padding, z-index sometimes, because z-index is where it hovers. So an object might hover behind the text or above the text. This is kind of like layers in Photoshop. It's where the object that you're working with, so an image, for instance, is in relation to everything else on the page. Do you want it to be behind everything else? Do you want it to be in front of one thing but behind something else? You use z-index for that. And then CSS ID and CSS classes. This is really for Pro because you can come over here in Pro and you can add your own custom CSS. We don't really need to worry about that for right now. Just understand that that's there if you need it, okay? So right now we're gonna work with margin, padding, and z-index. So let's go ahead and put something on this page. Let's go back up to this grid here. The first thing I want to put in is an intersection, and you're going to see right away that it gives me 2 sections, 1, 2. Let's go ahead and kill that color transition because I find that annoying. Now this is our header section. This is the top part of the page. So we want to add things like a big headline, maybe a sub-headline, a CTA, and an image, all right? That's really all we want here. So all we have to do then is just come back over to the grid. We're gonna take a heading and we're gonna plop it in there. And we can change things like the HTML tag. That's important for SEO, just to make sure that we have it listed appropriately. It's like bullet points. You can check out this video for more info on SEO. But you can add your text here. You can come to your style side here and you can change the text color. You can also change the font and the size of the font and just any basic text editing thing that you want to do, you do that right here. You don't want to make it that small because you'll never be able to see it. Now, if I wanted to add another section here, so let's say a sub-headline, we can just add another header here and we just slap it right underneath it. We can change the HTML tag to H3, so that'll change the look a little bit. We're gonna let's just change this to sub-header. We can link the text if we want to. We don't really need to do anything like that right now. And then we can add a button even underneath that. And the benefit of putting all of these in the column together is that it allows me to keep them all together in the same space, okay? So let's go ahead and add this button. We'll just add a button. You want to be really careful about where you're putting this because you can see if you put it here, it's going to go across the whole section. So you can just pick it up at the little pen there and make sure that you have it in the right area. That can be a little tricky at times. Now you're going to notice immediately that the info that you see on button is different from the info that you see when you click the text heading section. So for heading, there's the title, there's the HTML tag, there's not much else. There's a couple things for style, there's a couple things like margin that you see for advanced, etc. The button has more styling options. So You can change the color. You want to add a link here. That's, of course, very important. You want to add this. I would make this maybe a little bit bigger, or you can even make it bigger than that. We want to put an icon in there or not. That's up to you. So you can upload an icon. You can go to the icon library here, and that's just going to give you a bunch of default icons. I don't usually put icons on my buttons, but if you want to, I don't think there's any problem with that. Style is a little bit different too. So you have not only the text color, which is important in a button because you also have the background color. So if I want to make the background color red, sometimes certain things aren't going to look right. So I don't want the text color to be black, maybe, because I just don't think that's going to look very good. It looks kind of like the devil or something. But in any case, you can change the size. What I really like is this box shadow and the border radius. So I would tend to not want to make the border radius different on each one of these. So I would just keep this little link icon on as it is. And let's just go ahead and make this 50 and see what happens. So 50 makes it a circle. I don't really like the look, but just so you can see, that's how it works. And then we can add a shadow here. You can see it's already been added, but maybe we want to move it down a little bit more. Well, maybe not that much. You can move it like this, and you can move it over a little bit so that it just kind of looks the way you want. You can change the color on it. So maybe we want to make it white where you can't see anything, or red so you can see a little bit more, maybe a dark red. It's just like picking the color for anything else except that it's 50% opaque. Okay, and then they add a little blur there. All right, so let's create one more section because I want to show you one more thing that's pretty interesting here that I think you'll appreciate. By the way, I just took an intersection there. I dragged it to the start widget and it created the two columns for me, okay? So let's say that I want to make a 3-column width section and I want to have more or less the same information in it every time. So let's go ahead and add a text editor. And it's going to have some basic language in it. We can edit it as HTML here if we want to. Otherwise, just stick to the visual editor. I'm going to tell you that if you decide to edit it as HTML, you do it over here. It's much easier if you just edit it visually over here. It just, for some reason, works better. It's worked better for me in the past. So just do it that way. It's going to make your life easier. Style options are more or less the same: center, color, typography, and then we'll get to margin and padding in just a minute. This is going to be the section where this is going to be really important. Okay, so we've got text, but we also want to add an icon over the top. Okay, so we've got this. We like the way that this looks. Let's say that we want to do this 2 more times so that we have those 3 columns. All right, so we can just right click here and we can duplicate it. And we're going to right click, duplicate it 1 more time. Then you can make any changes you want. Now you'll see this extra column here. Simply go over here and delete it. And then it'll separate and distance the way that you want it to. So now that we're here, let's go ahead and take a look at responsive mode. And let's see how this looks in responsive mode. So let's go to mobile. So I have to say that most of the time I don't really look too much at tablet. It's interesting, but it's not as important because a lot of the time it works off desktop mode if you have the width correctly done. So, you know, whatever. So I just look at mobile here. So first thing I notice, this is not centered. We want to center that. Let's go ahead and center that, and we can center that, align center there. Okay. But let's look at these sections. So in this section, let's say that I want a little bit more space between these 3 different blocks when we're in the mobile view of things, just because it'll look a little bit nicer. It doesn't look so jammed together. So all we have to do is click on the section, the block section here, and we're going to go to advanced. Now, very important when we're talking about margins and padding, if you don't intend for everything to expand or shrink, you want to make sure that you undo this link here. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like if you start playing with it while it's all linked. So let's just type in 20. You see how it went in on the sides. I'm going to undo that so you can see it again. It goes in on the sides and on the top and on the bottom. So let's do 200 just so, yeah, see, it just doesn't look very good. So 100. See, it smashes down here on the left, on the right. Just doesn't look very good. So let's go ahead and unlink that. And let's just say we want to add 20 pixels to the top and 20 pixels to the bottom. Now it adds a little bit of space for both of those right there. So that's kind of nice. So let's see if that's still true when we go to desktop. And no, it is not. So we're in the same block on desktop, and it did not make that adjustment. So that's really super nice. Now, one more thing. Let's say that I want to add a border here. So let's go ahead and just add a border so this is easier to see. A solid line, and let's make the border radius a little bit more rounded. So that's just a, nice little border radius thing. So let's say that I want this icon to float in that line there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here. I'm going to go to advanced. Again, I'm going to unlink this. And what I want to do is put the margins in the negative. So this is a little bit weird, but just stick to me for a minute. If you're going to make it go into itself, if you're going to shrink everything down, then you want to add numbers. So let's say 20. You can see that the icon is pushing down from the top. But if I want it to move up and outside of its own border, we're going to add a negative in front of that. So negative 20, so that's not quite right. So let's say negative 50, that's a little too much. Maybe negative 30, negative 40. Okay, negative 39, I'm happy with that. So that's how it looks when we press the negatives here. It sounds weird because negative usually means we're going below 0, but that is true. It's just that you should consider the top 0 and anything on the inside positive and anything on the outside negative. So that's how we can add those little borders there and play with the margin. And so you can really do that with anything that's here. You can put an image in. You can add a video if you want to. It has a very easy setup for just about anything. This is going to pull directly from your uploaded files or the default media library. You just slap it in there, nice and simple. And then you can check and change the sizes to whatever size that you want. I tend to customize the sizes. I just find that works a little bit easier if you want to add links, etc. So that's how you build a page. I would love to be able to show you how to also build this menu. Unfortunately, that's Pro, but I really suggest that you check out Pro. It's really not that expensive. If you want to change the menu header and make it look more stylistically you and more consistent with the rest of your site. But that's really all you need to know for now about Elementor. It's very simple. Once you understand that it's just drag and drop, and then you can change whatever settings you need to, and that you don't need to be afraid of this advanced tab and borders and background colors and motion effects, etc., you're going to be good to go. And then the last thing that's really important is just understanding where you are in this section, column, element setup so that you can navigate things a little bit easier. So there you go. That should set you up for success with Elementor and understanding how to use that system better. Hopefully you'll be able to build your first site in probably about an hour or so. It really isn't going to take you that much time. If you have any other questions, please do let me know. I would also love to know, please let me know in the comments if there was anything that really blew you away, especially because we only worked with the free version of Elementor here. There's a lot that you can do, and it probably did blow you away at some point because you're kind of wondering, why are they not charging for this? Well, it's because there's a lot of awesome stuff you can do on the Pro version as well, which we can get to in some other video. But just let me know, I would love to know. Otherwise, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, and I'll catch you in the next one.